Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon. Welcome back to the Disciples of Zeus podcast. My name is Ethan Benstead, and today I am joined with me, as usual, James Dent. James, how are you doing this morning?
Quite well, as ever. How are you doing, Ethan?
I'm good. I just finished arm day at the gym, so I am
Nice.
prepped and ready to go for this episode for today. But before we jump in, once again, James, what is your thought of the day?
My thought of the day. I haven't had that many thoughts today, but one of my thoughts of the day, it happens. One of my thoughts of the day has been about how when you're fully rested and well slept, how much coffee and caffeine makes you feel jittery versus when you're underslept and it just makes you feel sort of baseline normal.
That was me
What's
this
your
morning.
thought,
I
sir?
had zero sleep last night, and I had coffee this morning, and now I'm just baseline normal. So that works out well. My
Checks
thought of the day is I have a 12-hour lamb that I'm doing at the moment, and how good that's going to be tonight.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, shoulder roast. It's going to be amazing. But moving forward from food. If you do want to look at food, though, we do have an episode on that on our Spotify. Please go and check that out. But today is going to be a little bit different because James and I have known each other for the better part for 2 years, 3 years now. And something that I haven't actually been able to ask James is why he picked entrepreneurship over anything else. So, James, you want to quickly give us a bit of a background on who you are and what you're studying at the moment and what you're doing at the moment?
Yeah. So, as you say, we've known each other for more or less my whole adult life. I don't know if you relate to that. But in that time, pretty much my main gig has been gigging as a musician. So I still study that at uni and I gig around quite regularly. And that's the main source of my income and proficiency as an entrepreneur. But I've also, worked part-time to keep me going through uni and to have more money because money is quite cool. And then last year I had a full-on business, but it just wasn't quite profitable enough. So I ended up shutting it down. And the reason that I chose entrepreneurship initially was because I shouldn't say lazy, but I wasn't very conscientious. And it seemed like, oh, no schedule. I get to just show up whenever I want and do whatever I want. That seems great, which is a super cool benefit. But now, as the pendulum swung the other way and I'm a lot more conscientious, now it's you can only work 40 hours a week in a job, but I might want to work every day, Monday through Wednesday, for 16 hours a day, and then do a little bit on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Or likewise, next week, I might go, I want to work 10-hour days every day of the week. The week following, I might be like, you know what? It's a busy week. I've got family stuff going on. I need no work this week. And so it's gone from having freedom in the sense of I'm not accountable to anyone and I don't need to work that hard, to being flexibility to work literally as much as I humanly can or want to in any given week. And so I think a lot of the reason I picked entrepreneurship wasn't for the money. It was more for the lifestyle and time allowances that it gives me. But now money is cool.
Money is cool. So I guess my next follow-up question would be, we have a lot of mutual friends in the same industry, musicians, going and doing things. We also have full-time jobs and then also go and do these gigs on the side, or they've continued doing study to further progress their careers, such as being a teacher or going and doing a PhD in music and whatnot. Did that ever occur to you at any point to try and pursue that, or has it always been, I want that flexibility?
Yeah, well, I mean, I am pursuing that. Like, as I mentioned earlier, I'm still studying. I still work a job as well. And I don't like the sensation of being bored. So having a lot of things on my plate is actually a really good thing for me. Yeah, it's definitely crossed my mind. It's still something that I'm interested in doing and at some stage probably will do. I wouldn't say that I'm like hardcore entrepreneurship, like, must quit job to pursue business, drop shipping, crypto. I'm a lot more, I wouldn't say laid back about it, but I'm a lot more maybe balanced and cautious about, picking it to the detriment of all these other things, which are a lot more certain. I know that I've got a personal tendency to avoid risk in a lot of ways. And so doing that in the sense of entrepreneurship is like, okay, I'm not going to, cut all my ties to everything else. I'm going to keep my options open, have that freedom, and, pursue whatever makes the most sense at that time for where I see the future going.
So at the moment, you'd say that it's more of a right place, right time sort of thing. Like you're not putting off the idea of getting a full-time job in the future or pursuing different study paths in the future. It's just more of right now, entrepreneurship is the way to go for yourself.
Well, as I say, money is cool. Money is super duper cool. I like the idea of full-time work, and I don't super care where that full-time work comes from, as long as it's something that I, don't have any sort of intrinsic problem with. I'm just as happy if I can get those conditions of, look, I need this flexibility around the working hours. I'll do extra hours, but I need, this flexibility about like location and, sort of where the hours line up over a given period of time. If I could find a company that does that, great. I'm happy to work. I'm a hard worker. But if entrepreneurship also provides that, then great. Entrepreneurship sounds like a good plan. And even if I did get sort of a conventional full-time job, there's no reason that I can't continue the business that I've already been doing on the side of my, full-time uni, part-time job. I've already been fitting in the business around those. So a full-time job would actually be like a vacation and I'd get to focus on entrepreneurship more. But yeah, if I made entrepreneurship a full-time job, that's sick too. I don't have a problem with that.
Beautiful. And moving forward in regards to entrepreneurship itself, what are some of your latest preneurs that you have ventured out at the moment?
Yeah, so the most recent addition to the list is we've been reading $1 Million Weekend, which we'll probably record an episode on very shortly. Good man. I don't have my copy next to me. But yeah, and as part of that, I just wanted to quickly ideate an idea and see if it works. So I spent maybe 80 hours writing up a bit of code that basically compiles a list of all like music venues from the internet. It could work with pretty much anything, but I just made it do that because that's what I wanted anyway. And I put all that into literally just like a Google Docs spreadsheet and said, hey, if anyone wants it, it's $20. It's got like, 1,000+ venues in there. It's really good quality. You should check it out. And so a bunch of people bought that, and that was super cool because, I mean, free money basically. The hourly rate, not too good at the moment, but I get to keep all the code, I get to keep all the back end, and I also have the confidence that I can create money out of thin air with a little bit of effort, which is kind of sick. That's the most recent preneur. The most profitable recent preneur has been expanding the booking agency that I never really did anything with. And so that's just involved, trying to get a lot more wedding gigs. There's been a lot of bookings, but because weddings are planned a long way out in advance, haven't necessarily made any cash from that. But I'm going to start charging an upfront fee when I call people, being like, hey, if you want access to these bands, you just need to pay the access fee. And so I expect that that'll end up being quite lucrative. But as it stands, it's like a lot of future gain that hasn't actually been realized yet.
Nice. And earlier you talked about a business that you had last year that you shut down. Could you quickly go through what that business was and essentially why you had to shut it down?
Yeah, so it was kind of like a three-pronged business. The first prong was like physical products, so I 3D printed a bunch of stuff. That was super cool. Then second prong was like doing courses and like information products. That was super cool as well. And third part of the business was like using sort of rolling through, hey, here's my results with Facebook ads that have made this business super profitable, cool, whatever. Let me do this for your venue and I'll get heaps of people to come to my gigs that I'm already playing at, bro. And all three of them, individually for different reasons, just weren't working enough. So, as an example, the first prong, which was physical products, I had a lot of troubles with fulfillment with Australia Post and Sendall and Aramex, and they were all equally as bad as each other. And so I'd get a lot of chargebacks on goods that were received like a week later, say. A lot of people asking for refunds, and it's like, I shipped it 3 days ago, and you live in a country on the opposite end of the world. But I had to close that one down, which was really unfortunate because it was super cool. But I did end up making enough money to buy like 2 3D printers, so kind of a win. With the courses, they were going all right, but I had a business coach who told me to raise the price of the course. And unfortunately, I listened to him and it kind of destroyed everything. Because then I started optimizing my ads for this course that I was quite frankly overcharging for. And then, once I was in those ads, I would get rid of all the old ads, obviously. And the people who clicked on new ads were like, wow, this course seems great. And then they'd ask for refunds because, again, business coach was like, hey, man, you should be charging like 5 times as much for this. And I was like, yeah, man, you're a business coach. I'm going to listen to you. And that was a bad decision. It wasn't worth 5 times as much. And that guy has since stopped business coaching. So net win for the world. Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, so that was unfortunate. I do have plans to do that again in the future. So I started doing a lot of organic marketing for the business just for credibility. And then once I'm at a certain point, I haven't decided what that point is, then I'll start selling the products again. But as it stands, that one's closed down. And the final prong, which was look how good my Facebook ads are, it was working out great. But then the main place that was hiring me to do that, they ended up like going out of business and closing just because of personal stuff going on in the owner's life.
Yeah,
I can tell you from first-hand experience, my ads were great, but the personal stuff going on in the owner's life, and he's working on a new one but hasn't gotten approval for the like liquor licenses and the noise restraints and all that stuff. So that's a work in progress for future. But yeah, that one was one that I was pretty annoyed to lose because it was a super cool gig. I just got to do Facebook ads all day, which is something I'm good at, and I got paid for it. So it was pretty mad.
I guess in that regard is kind of bittersweet because it's something that you can't control. Like if it was going really really well, then it's just something you can't control, which sucks.
A lot more bitter than sweet.
Well, yeah, that's also true. Moving forward from that, then that was really really insightful. Thank you. I hope the listeners today also found that very very insightful. I think something else that would be insightful, it's rare these days to kind of see a starting up entrepreneur. Like everywhere you see on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, it's the people that have already made it. I'm not saying you haven't made it, but you haven't made it yet, right? What has been, I guess, some of the turning points in your life where you kind of like thought, oh, this could actually work? And what are some of the best advice that you've received from whether that be mentors or books or anything that kind of like struck a chord with you?
Yeah, so first part of that question. There haven't been too many points in time where it's been like a real like event.
Yeah.
A lot of it's been like you kind of just expect it to happen a little bit. And you definitely get acclimatized to it. But probably one of the memorable times was the first time that I like woke up and I'd made a sale overnight, and I was like, tapped my girlfriend on the shoulder, and I was like, babe, look, I made money. She's like half asleep, and she's like, But to me, it was a huge deal because it was like I was asleep and I made like $50, and it was like, whoa, this whole event happened. I literally made money while I was asleep. Sick. That was definitely an event. The other one was like in the course of like maybe 2 hours, I got about 5 sales. And so I was in the middle of like my job and my phone just kept going cha-ching. And like 20 minutes later, cha-ching. Cha-ching, cha-ching. So that was all pretty cool. I enjoyed that. Some of the best advice that I've received, to tackle the second part of your question, definitely, it might not have been advice, but it's just a mindset that I've fallen into, whether through advice that I've received or just because that's how I am. But just the problem-solving mindset of if there is a problem, I'm going to just tackle it and deal with it. There's something definitely to be said for just letting fires burn. But for me, a big thing is, if there's a problem, my job is to make sure that there's not a problem. So I'll just usually jump in and deal with things like maybe not as soon as they come up, but as soon as it becomes like a thorn in my side, I just try to pull it out because, I don't like having problems. Pretty simple. I think the benefit of that is that I don't suffer from like any paralysis when it comes to decision making or taking actions or whatever. But the drawback of that is that I'm aware that it's going to be very hard for me to like sort of remove myself from any of my businesses because I'll see a lot of problems that are other people's problems and I'll just want to jump in, micromanage, do them myself. But I'm pretty lucky because at the moment that's not a big problem for me. Just, I don't have any employees, so it makes life pretty easy.
Nice.
One of the other pieces of advice that I would want to touch on is that you can spend money, but only if it makes money. So there's a lot of things that you can spend money on that are nice to have, and they're cool, I guess. But if it's not fundamentally making you money, which basically means doesn't help with marketing, sales, or fulfillment, if it's outside of those 3 buckets, you probably don't need it, and you don't really need to invest $200,000 to have a business. You can just, if you have a laptop and a website, you basically have a business ready to go. You don't even need the website or the laptop. Business is as close to free as it's ever been. And I think anything beyond that is just getting fancy and wasting money.
Nice. Well, that is our time for today there, James. Thank you so much for going through this bit of an interview today. Listeners, if you liked what James said, please check him out on Facebook, James Dent. And if you're in the Brisbane Gold Coast area, please like the page so you know what events are coming up for his gigs. Any gigs coming up soon, or what's in the horizon?
Yeah, there's a few things in the near-ish future, but there's nothing big, and I try only to promote the things that are really big and like super groundbreaking, worth coming to. So as it stands, they're all just run of the mill, but I do talk about them sometimes. So yeah, as you say, follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and I'll let you know when there's something really worth checking out.
Beautiful. Well, we are disciples of Zeus. Thank you so much for listening today. If you enjoyed this podcast, please don't forget to share, like, subscribe on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and we'll try and get back to you if you respond to us as soon as possible. James, thank you so much for talking to me today. You have a good one.
As to you, Ethan, thank you.